I think we all are happy that our schedule got delayed because we had such a wonderful session this morning with our president and other interesting speakers. So that sort of shoved back all the sessions. My name is Mark Walsh. I'm the head of the Office of Investment and Innovation at the United States Small Business Administration. I just joined the government a few months ago from the private sector, so I'm still somewhere in between my sort of understanding the government. I tell people that my life is a collision of the HBO shows Veep and Silicon Valley. Every single day, I've been in meetings in the government where every single word in the scripts of Veep has been said with a straight face, and I've been in many meetings in technology where every single word from the Silicon Valley scripts have been also said with a straight face. But we have an awesome panel today, a fantastic topic. I just want to give a couple of footnotes before we get started. One of our panelists, because of the clock session, has a flight to catch, and it is the only flight that goes to the place he has to go from a local airport. So if you see somebody leave the stage in the middle of the session, do not be alarmed. It is not a signal of dire alert. It is that because this person is going to make his flight. So Emmett Vaughn, you'll meet just in a minute, will be stepping out a little bit closer to 3 o'clock. We're going to be 1 hour together. Here's how the structure is going to go. I'm going to ask the panelists to do a lightning round introduction where they will tell you who they are and the organization they are with. One of our panelists has a very short video that will give you a little more flavor of her organization. I will then ask specific panelists specific questions. I have a bunch of questions here that hopefully are pithy and illuminating for you, the audience. I will direct them to specific folks on the panel. Sometimes another panelist may wish to respond to the original questions. We may bat a question around a little bit. About 45 or 50 minutes in, I will turn the microphones over to you, the audience. I'm not sure where they are, but I do think we have live mics. I'm sorry, we have two microphone runners right here in the front row. I will ask for your questions, as I say, with about 10 minutes to go. I'm a firm believer that any fully involved audience will have questions of a fantastic set of panelists like this, so I will get questions. If I don't see anybody with their hand raised, I will call on somebody. And I'm not kidding. I like to do that, so this will keep you on your toes. Okay? Before we get to the quick lightning round introduction, I just want to remind you of a short story. Dr. Robert Oppenheimer was the chief scientist on the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, New Mexico in the 40s, where they developed the atomic bomb and ended World War II. And Dr. Oppenheimer, after they built the first test atomic bomb called Fat Boy, was gathering the scientists together in a bus to drive out to the detonation site and to watch Fat Boy be detonated. Detonation site called Trinity Site.
Africa is a lot.
Sorry? I hope I haven't offended Dr. Oppenheimer's ghost. As the bus was circling the Alamogordo site, the Los Alamos site, rather, Dr. Oppenheimer noticed that the mathematician, Dr. Brock Johnson, was not on the bus. So he tells the driver to go to the Quonset hut of Dr. Johnson. He knocks on the door, and Dr. Johnson shows up in his bathrobe with a mug of coffee. And Oppenheimer says, what are you doing? You got to join us, all the scientists from the bus. We're going out to Trinity Site to watch the detonation. This is a day of great wait. We are seeing the beginning of the dawn of a new age. You got to be with us. And the mathematician said, you don't understand. If I get the math wrong, none of you is coming back. And that's the key to today's panel. Because when you get the math wrong in supply chain and vendor relationships and all the features of getting a product from A to the pocket or the pocketbook or the table or the garage or the factory of your customer, that line right there, getting the math right, makes you a successful company or entity. Getting the math wrong makes you not. So getting the math right, although often considered boring, often not considered the key feature of success to a hyper-growth company, many of which were spawned right here in the campus within which we sit. But the essence of supply chain procurement and having that work smoothly, that's where the math really, really matters. So with that, we have a great panel to talk about that and other issues, and I will start right here to my left and ask you to start lightning round who you are and who you work with.
Hi, I'm Kelly Thompson, and I work for Walmart.com here in the Bay Area. Thanks for having me.
That's a lightning round start. Congratulations. I admire that.
I don't know whether to show the video now, but I am Parminder Veer, and I work for the Tony Elumelu Foundation based in Lagos, Nigeria, and greetings from Lagos, Nigeria.
Why don't we look at the video?
Should we show the video?
Yep, 2 minutes.
Africa is a land of opportunities. There's no better time than this moment to be and become an entrepreneur in Africa.
I'm from Ghana. My business is in the IT sector.
I'm the founder of Brits Fresh Foods, which is a company that aims to promote healthy lifestyle in Africa.
I am committing $100 million to support the next generation of African entrepreneurs. The program represents a decade-long commitment to support 10,000 African entrepreneurs and startups.
I've been mentoring 5 mentees. People will be developing businesses and creating jobs, which is badly needed in Africa.
When someone says, this is impossible, reply with 2 sentences. 1, nothing is impossible. 2, impossible only takes longer.
I want to charge you all, in your own little ways, to become like little Elumelus. Your creativity, innovation, talent, and most importantly, strength of character is our future. I'm sure that your countries and our continent will be safe in your hands.
Just focus on creating value. Because anytime you focus on creating value, you are attracting capital.
I had a dream to connect with our African brothers and sisters, and you have made this dream come true.
And to me, it's about legacy. Put yourself in my position and working in my old age at 80, for instance, and I visit Zambia, and someone says, I own this financial institution. I got $10,000 from a certain man from Nigeria called Tony Elumelu. That's how I started. That is my ambition.
Now we can customize our product for, the Pan-African market. So we're going home, we're going big.
I believe that the seed we plant today through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program will help to develop Africa in the future.
I've always wanted to have people chanting my name like that. That is pretty cool. David?
Hi, I'm Dave Mandelbrot. I'm the CEO of Indiegogo. Unfortunately, I forgot my video in the car. And we're based here in San Francisco. We're a platform to enable entrepreneurs to take their ideas all the way from concept to market. And so far, entrepreneurs have raised over $950 million on Indiegogo and have developed products that have been distributed all over the world.
Emmett?
Hey Dave, give me about 25 minutes and I'll go out to your car and get your video. I am Emmett Vaughn. I run the Office of Diverse Business Empowerment for the Exelon Corporation. Exelon is the largest U.S. Electric and gas utility and the largest provider of also generator of nuclear power in the U.S.
Rahma?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rahma Wright, and I'm going to change the title of this panel slightly to include all the women who are part of supply chains. So it's going to be the David, Donna, and Goliath panel.
Nicely done.
And I run an impact company that works with women in West Africa and Northern Ghana. And what we do is we help women transform shea seeds into shea butter that we connect to retail markets in the US.
We actually were going to call it the Danielle versus Goliath, but you got it done. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Ram. You obviously you and your colleagues work with the small-scale cooperatives and butters in northern Ghana, correct? How have you been able to connect that entity with major retailers, both domestically and globally?
Yeah, I started Shealeen after I served in the Peace Corps, and I was in a rural community and served as a community health educator. And during my time there, a lot of women would come into the health center and leave, oftentimes unable to buy medicine. And so I started researching income-generating activities specifically for women and discovered the connection between shea butter, which is a product, it comes from a tree, it's a fruit, and inside of the fruit is a seed. It's something that women do. They harvest the fruit, they collect the seeds, they make shea out of it. But what has happened is that with the globalization of shea butter, women in rural communities are unable to get their products to market. And as I started to learn about the disconnect between shea producers and markets in the US and elsewhere, I started identifying the hurdles to helping them get to market. So to answer your question, it starts first with organizing women. This was a product that was made at home. Women would work to produce shea butter by themselves. And so the first step was organizing them into cooperatives, giving them the ability to leverage working collectively together so that they could scale production. So that was one. Another area was training women so that they had access to the proper process to create a high quality product that would meet international standards. Oftentimes when you're working with small scale producers, they don't know the quality constraints or the quality requirements to getting their products to market. So that was an area that Shailene worked on. So we train women on everything from quality processing to storage, how the product is transported. And then of course, the market access piece is really important. And we were very fortunate enough to launch our products in Whole Foods markets. And part of that process was because Whole Foods had a program that was supporting social entrepreneurs. So essentially the next generation of conscious capitalists. And that's how we were able to first start with the community, so organizing them, providing them access with the tools, the resources that they need, and then follow the supply chain all the way to the market.
Kelly Thompson, Danielle Meet Goliath, Walmart, $500 billion,
yeah.
sorry, forgot the extra zero there, or a few extra zeros, $500 billion in revenue, almost 11,000 stores worldwide. How do you and your colleagues reach out to organizations of her size and make those relationships bear fruit for both?
So I think there's a couple of best practices. First of all, you have to believe in it and then commit to it. So we're committed to building a diverse supply chain that includes businesses of all, from different sizes, all different countries. It's better for our customers, it's smart for our business, and it's the right thing to do. We get a lot of innovation in our supply chain by working with smaller suppliers. It keeps our product shelves, the product on our shelves exciting, and we actually meet customers' needs better, so it's just good business. But that being said, you do have to pay attention to the smaller suppliers and invest a little bit extra in order to help them scale and help them come along. So Walmart's very committed to, I'll just walk through a couple of things, but first we have dedicated staff on supplier diversity and women-owned businesses. So we have a special team that their job is to help scale capacity here in the US and around the globe. We have a lot of training materials that women can access, women-owned businesses and small businesses can access, help understand the basics of doing business with Walmart. We have around the different markets. I'll tell a story about Mexico. They have a program with small suppliers where they, for 18 months, they give them a little bit extra help in marketing and logistics. And also some extra time with the buyers. And what they found in this program is that the small suppliers, their sales increased by 41% versus the previous time when they didn't have that extra support. So just kind of giving a little bit of extra investment, and then they've rolled this program out to Central America. And so, low-cost innovation now rolled out to Central America. I think they have 163 small suppliers in that first-generation program. And so we'll see. So we have a variety of things that we do for small suppliers and women-owned businesses in particular. But going back to committing and setting a goal, about 5 years ago, Walmart launched its Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative, and we set a bold goal in the U.S. to source $20 billion from women-owned businesses. And I'm happy to report that we are on track to hit that goal. I think we're just shy of $16.5 billion. And so, in order to hit that goal, we had to spend a lot of time understanding the constituency and how to provide the support to women-owned businesses in particular. And so I look forward to seeing those products on a Walmart shelf soon. We were just talking backstage about how to have a successful buyer meeting and smelling her lovely products. They're quite lovely.
You just saw a supply deal done right in front of you,
right.
ladies and gentlemen.
Right there.
Congratulations.
Merchants are always
There you
shopping.
We're done here. Let's retire and walk off the stage. Emmett Vaughn. As you know, with the United States Small Business Association, we're committed to diverse supply chain and to diverse procurement for the United States government. For an organization your size, an organization whose customers need your power, you're a crucial component of our daily lives. How have you guys built diverse supply chains, and what are some of the goals that you have for diversity in supplier relationships?
Well, we're very much strategically driven. So unlike, and it's interesting because Kelly and I were talking, a lot of my background was actually, I came out of retail before I went into energy about a decade ago. And one thing I think that when you have the strategic driver of consumer interest and marketplace interest, it absolutely gives you a little bit better a handle on being able to research and set those type of goals. For us, it's really more about our operating culture because of the regulated nature of what energy is. So we spend over $1 billion annually with diversity certified suppliers. There's a lot of them, so minority and women in 2016 just doesn't cover the broad spectrum anymore. What we do is we certainly have a very aggressive research team. When we get bids on the street, we get those out. We also have organizations like the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the Women's Business Enterprise, National Enterprise Networks, just to name a couple that we support. And we, in the close to 100 categories of spending that run Exelon Corporation, we will go out and research in advance companies that we believe have the right qualifications, best in class. That's one side of it, very much to Kelly's point. We have a very rigorous supplier development program where when companies, they certainly don't wait on us to call them, they will approach us, and we will interview and review and then try to find ways to decide where they are on a placement track. So maybe that is the opportunity right now to bid. We may call them shovel ready, so to speak. Or in some cases, we may say you're close but not quite there, so we'll put you on a developmental track. One of the things that's very interesting about, because we're not even really, people talk about B2C and B2B, we're a B to nothing. We're a B to keep your lights on in almost any city. And quite frankly, the rigor of our industry it's a very hazardous and very technically specific at the core of what we do. So safety standards and those things are really, really, really super important, especially as we talk about field work. And then like any corporation, we are, I think we're among U.S. corporate leaders. We, on the other side of the spectrum in professional services, we've got about $2 billion under advisement with minority investment banks. So all in all, in the full context of how a Fortune 100 corporation operates, we really just explore what's on the docket for that year. We will vet and make sure that we've got the best in class diversity certified companies identified in those categories. And in many cases, sometimes they're supplied, we'll get to them before they'll come call us.
David, I'll get to you in a second, but first, Parminder, we saw the video. Tell us how the foundation plays in some of these small to big, big to big, big to small marketplaces.
So just to back up, so the foundation is founded on three kind of guiding principles. One is Afri-capitalism, an economic philosophy espoused by Mr. Tony Elumelu, which says that Africans, and particularly the private sector, the SMEs and the entrepreneurs, and you saw 1,000 of them gathered in July this time last year before we went to the GES summit in Kenya, it is they that will drive the economic development of Africa, yeah? And the second is about institutionalizing luck. All of you guys need these SMEs and these entrepreneurs that we are growing over the next 10 years in order to build the businesses across those supply chains. And his was that, Africa is not short of talent, of creative entrepreneurs, yeah? What we need to do is democratize that luck. And the foundation's approach to it is through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. And finally, being an entrepreneur himself and an investor, he fundamentally believes that it is the entrepreneurs that will drive that economic growth and development. So what are we doing? So you saw that he's committed $100 million of family wealth, focused entirely on developing and growing 10,000 entrepreneurs over the next 10 years. That's 1,000 entrepreneurs a year. We launched the program in 2015, and we've trained the first 1,000 The program is skills development, yeah. It's mentoring and seed capital investment and networks. So those 1,000 entrepreneurs, they meet on an online platform as they go through their training program. And and when I ask them now, so what was your takeaway from the last year's program? Number one, they say, is the networks that we've built, yeah? So now, across the 54 African countries, and we have entrepreneurs from 54 African countries, and the amazing thing is that a year ago, some of those just were sitting with an idea. Today, they're running their businesses. And a dozen of them have found their way to the GES summit here, yeah, of their own volition. I mean, what they got was the training, the mentoring, and some seed capital. And they are beginning to develop the products and services. There's a young Ghanaian entrepreneur who took bamboo and put it together with a bicycle. And that is, so he's selling bamboo bikes, okay? There's an entrepreneur that said, you know, I can produce 3 crops a year as opposed to 1. Walmart will need that. You know, he's producing onions, tomatoes, and apples. And he went to Netherlands using the 5,000 seed capital, learned the technology of underground irrigation, and is now growing crops. He was, you know, his president was so impressed that his president went from his house to his farm to see that. And I can roll off another 1,000 such examples. Look what a short space of time it took to empower and galvanize and 1,000 entrepreneurs to begin to make a contribution to the African economy. They can feed themselves, their families, their communities, and they have ambitions to precisely have, you know, as that last entrepreneur said, now, you know, we can refine our products and think of the Pan-African market as our market. Many of those entrepreneurs had never left their countries, right? Before they met, yeah? Now they have this Pan-African network, and they are the entrepreneurs that you guys, the global community, will be looking to in order to access many of those so-called hard-to-reach markets.
Okay, great. David, let's go with you, and Kelly, I'm going to follow up with you, hopefully from David's answer. Just, I'm interested in the audience. Who here has ever purchased a product on Indiegogo? Anybody purchase it from Kickstarter? I'm sorry, I think they have. Anybody purchase something on Kickstarter? Okay, I'm actually surprised. I thought this audience would be a little more adventuresome on that. Walk us through. And I say that I love Indiegogo, and I bought many things on it. But obviously, the model, as you know, is for consumer products that are put up there. It's prepaid. So you prepay for the product, and the entrepreneur then basically goes and builds it. How have you seen any sort of success factors on products that are prepaid on the Indiegogo platform, not being able to find the supply chain and the suppliers, and not being able to scale up for some of the very successful products that you had?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you know, thanks for the intro. Indiegogo is an amazing platform because what it really does is it changes the order in which entrepreneurs get their products to market. The historical system was a system where the entrepreneur had, and I'm going to overly simplify, the entrepreneur had a great idea. They depending on the ambition of the idea, the entrepreneur needed to raise funding to actually be able to pursue its investment in that idea, needed to develop product, then it needed, even if it developed the product and the product worked, and the entrepreneur was very excited about the product, then the entrepreneur needed to go and pitch the product. It was really interesting hearing Kelly describe what the experience is like with Walmart. And you know, she said, you know, I could describe what would be useful in having a good meeting with Walmart. And that's because the little David or Donna entrepreneur needed to go to the big retailer before their sales and try to convince Walmart that shelf space is worthwhile to is worthwhile to Walmart. And there's a catch-22 there. The entrepreneur's basically got to sell the retailer before they've got proof that there is an actual audience for the product. What Indiegogo and other crowdfunding platforms do is they change the order. They give the entrepreneur the ability to demonstrate the market demand for the product before they talk to retailers. And what it does, I like the description of democratizing entrepreneurship. What it does is it levels the playing field. what it does, just to use, since this is a global summit, let's talk about a worldwide example. Last year on Indiegogo, a father and son had an idea that they'd been developing for years to build a better beehive. A lot of people, I don't know if anybody heard about this, a lot of people are now harvesting their own honey. There's an issue around the world about maintaining the health of the bees. And a father and son from basically, I hope I'm not insulting them, from nowhere, Australia, had a wonderful idea.
I've been there.
It sounds nice, actually. They wanted to raise $70,000 so that they could actually take their beehive and actually start manufacturing it. So they put it on Indiegogo, and they made a great video, a 2-minute video. That was all they had to do. They didn't have to travel to Bentonville, Arkansas. They didn't have to go out and pitch retailers. They didn't have to do any of the things that a traditional entrepreneur has had to do to get their product off the ground. They put their campaign on Indiegogo. They wanted to raise $70,000. They raised $12 million on Indiegogo to make their beehives. And exactly like you described, that was customers actually funding the creation of that product before that product was ready for the marketplace.
But could they deliver, is my question.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that question. That campaign was on Indiegogo a year ago. They sold $12 million worth of product. They didn't even have a factory yet. 1 year later today, they have shipped every single beehive that was sold on Indiegogo. And now, I just talked to them because we actually do a podcast from our office. They actually now have a business that is generating in the tens of millions of dollars in revenue a year based out of Brisbane, Australia, that is manufacturing beehives and shipping them around the world. That's
great.
That's amazing. So do you take a cut in that?
We do, absolutely we do.
I was
but the
wondering.
cut, so the traditional model on Indiegogo is that Indiegogo takes a 5% cut. Wow. And that's it.
That's all Walmart takes, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
Well, that's 5% of 500 billion.
Right.
Mind-boggling.
Let's stay on the virtual marketplaces, because I think everybody here, except for the direct delivery of power, Emmett, which you and your colleagues are specifically set on, the virtual marketplaces that we participate in and we see are clearly thriving. In fact, I think at Walmart, it's probably the fastest growing sector for your overall. Walk us through what you see happening at Walmart in the next 5 to 10 years in your virtual marketplaces.
Yeah, so that's a great point. A lot of people don't realize that we have a huge presence here in the Valley as Walmart.com, and we run 12 websites in 11 countries. And I'll speak to the U.S., which is what I'm personally familiar with and have personally helped to cultivate. But you have these new platforms, and Dave's absolutely right. To have customer demand is very compelling to a merchant who's trying to delight customers and drive sales. But what you have with a retailer like Walmart, right, global and omni-channel, you have stores, and there's this big myth that you have to get into 11,000 stores at once or 5,000 in the US. You don't. You actually can get into Walmart.com as a supplier directly to Walmart.com or through our marketplaces where we host third-party sellers. And so depending on how you want to do business with Walmart, you're able to. And that can be a really great way to get a supplier to scale, because I think we want to hear more stories about the success of being able to ramp up and meet that demand. And that's what Walmart is committed to doing, is helping suppliers scale. So I was just at a conference a couple of weeks ago talking with a woman who just got a product in one store. And now she's growing, and she's growing it to several stores. And she's working with our supplier diversity team to help scale her ability to develop product at the right quality, make sure that the logistics are right, that it has to be on the shelf when it needs to be there. And she's leveraging a variety of the programs that we offer to help do that. But yeah, so there's, the whole world opens up when you have these digital marketplaces. One thing that can be tough for entrepreneurs is that shelf space, store shelf space, is at a premium. It's not growing, it's staying flat, and yet the merchants are asked to deliver growing sales on a flat real estate. So that's where a virtual marketplace can really come in handy. And then that's another way, like Indiegogo, to get a little bit more information about customer demand and walk into a meeting with a supplier who's making decisions about a store shelf, and have a very data-driven conversation that's customer-focused.
We're going to lose Emmett in just a second, so I want to get one last quick question to you before you say goodbye.
Thank you.
Doing business with the U.S. government can be oftentimes almost fatal to small businesses because you have to either pledge to be a government supplier or become a broader, more commercialized entity. Do you sometimes find that you have suppliers who become so dependent upon your large customer centricity that you almost encourage them to find other opportunities, or are you happy to have suppliers truly wedded to your structure?
I think it's a double-edged sword, Mark. First of all, in manufacturing type or related industries, you'll often find, particularly if it's a hard good, that a lot of small suppliers here in the U.S. have cut their teeth on government contracts, or as we call them public sector contracting. The big challenge I think I find with us being a private sector company and a nationally scaled, nobody's the scale of Walmart, but a nationally scaled company nonetheless, is that the economics of the public sector are vastly different. I'm sorry, I'm saying it backwards. The economics of the private sector are vastly different than that of the public sector. It's not to say that any one project, if you're an entrepreneur and you are building a business portfolio that has got a healthy amount of government contracting or municipal contracting, that's a good thing. It's just that you need to, before you make the leap to a Walmart, to an Exelon, it's very important that you understand the profit motives and therefore the margin management that private sector supply chains are going to undertake. And to some extent, this is where a company like ours and Walmart, we're in the same business. And that is, the irony of it is we want to spend more money. We want to increase our portfolios with diversity certified suppliers. By the same token, Walmart is famous for, they've redefined the American retail marketplace by doing what? Keeping prices low. And that's the same thing with us. We own utilities in Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, Atlantic City. So nobody wants to pay more for electricity. And so part of our job in our respective supply chains is making sure that we're keeping costs in such a way that we keep our consumers at the end of the day happy, that we keep our ratepayers, in your case, happy. So it's my thought, Mark, in closure is that there's two things I would suggest that companies that are, and I will not speak for Walmart, but certainly speaking for Exelon, the behaviors of the small business community here or anywhere, I think more and more, I would selfishly like to see or recommend that there's more in the merger and acquisition space among each other. You know, when I was in retail, Kelly, you know, on the grocery side, I didn't need 15 different barbecue sauces on the shelf. You know what I mean? I don't need 17 t-shirt manufacturers. I don't need 42 consultants providing me with staff augmentation. What I need are those that can come together. They understand our nationally scaled model. They can find a way to collaborate. Steve Case nailed it when he talked about partnerships and his 5 Ps. And then just try to create those type of scalable entities that you move from a culture of being independent, fiercely competitive small businesses into behaviors that rival that of the large corporations that you're pursuing as clients.
We're going to lose you. Thank you for your time. Safe travels, sir. Let's give a quick hand to Emmett Vaughn as he steps aside. Thank you very much. To the point of his last question, I heard the other day a great line from one of my colleagues. They said that M&A is the new R&D. Think about that for a second. M&A is the new R&D. We're seeing lots of that where larger companies are besides or along with or sometimes in replacement with their traditional R&D efforts, they're actually snapping up smaller entities that are driving it. Let's stick with these virtual marketplaces. Rahama, did you ever consider, for Shailene, did you ever consider putting stuff on the Indiegogos of the world and sort of testing stuff out?
I didn't initially. We actually did an Indiegogo campaign for when we brought shea producers to the U.S. Mm-hmm. And so we fundraised through our network to just cover the cost of them coming to the U.S. to do store visits with the stores that we were selling in at Whole Foods. I initially wasn't trying to sell products. When I started Shailene, I was actually more interested in helping women create high quality products that I could connect to large buyers. So the large skincare manufacturers of the world, but found that it was very challenging to do that because over 90% of shea butter that leaves the continent of Africa is not processed in country. The raw material is shipped out in large quantities to Europe and Asia, and that's what makes up the bulk of the supply chain. And so my challenge then became figuring out if the women are only producing less than 10% of what's being sold in the marketplace, how can we get a product to market that could increase their ability to get more value-added products to market? And I think that we need these large businesses to partner with us. I'm a small business working with small-scale farmers in rural communities all the way in Ghana. And in order to help them improve their standard of living, they need to be able to bring value-added products to market. So I didn't want to bring this up, but we know how the David and Goliath story ended up. And I think that,
anybody have a sling and a rock they want to put on the stage for a little bit?
And I think that large companies need the small guys. Absolutely. They need the Davids and the Donnas and the Daniels. And I think it's I think several people have brought this up, that it's in the best interest of large companies to see how to improve their supply chains, make it more ethical, and ensuring that the products that they bring to market are not harming people in the process. And so for companies and enterprises like Shayalene, we help make that easier, simply because of the fact that we're working directly in the communities. A Walmart isn't going to go into the rural village and work with the women on the day-to-day challenges of bringing products to market, but we do that. And so that's my focus and the focus of Shayalene. And I will give a plug here to the SBA, because I actually had to use several SBA programs to get my company to where it is today. For example, the SCORE program has been really helpful to Shayalene, and the SCORE program is a program that assigns business advisors to entrepreneurs and small businesses to help them create everything from business plans, marketing plans, sales and distribution plans. And the supplier diversity programs are really, really important. And I commend all the companies here that have supplier diversity programs, because without them, we wouldn't have an opportunity to get our products to market, because it's so competitive. Buyers are constantly being berated with so many different products and pitches. And if you already have a business model where you're working with your main suppliers, it's hard for a new supplier to come in that might not have all of the requirements that are required to get your product to market. So these supplier diversity programs are really essential. And all I would add is these large companies actually making it a priority to not only have someone who's the director of supplier diversity to have that position, but actually when you bring in a small business, to help them grow through your supply chain. And that's one of the challenges that I've seen, because everyone's supplier diversity program is different. And I'm currently going through one now where they don't do slotting fees for their diversity suppliers. If they see you struggling in the market, they actually help put in place a plan to address the challenges that you're going through. And they're very committed to helping their small suppliers grow within their supply chain.
Thank you for that commercial for the SBA, provided at no cost to the United States government. Obviously, that comment and some of the questions has generated some interest from other parts. David, just 1 second. We'll start with Parminder. You had your hand up, and then David.
So, one of the things is also about building, there's the Made in Nigeria, Made in India campaigns. And it's, the thing that I observe, why is it a Uganda that has 140 million cows imports secondhand shoes? Why is it Uganda, which was the largest grower of cotton, has the largest amounts of secondhand clothes that are dumped on that market? So one of the things that I observe as we work with our entrepreneurs is the supply chains at home are totally broken, right? And what we have to do, certainly in terms of working with government, working with the private sector, is to reinstitute those supply chains, right? Why is it that a car, again, taking Uganda as an example, because the president really brought these things home to me. Invest $1,900 million to India, capital flight to India for health and education. Yeah, $800 million worth of capital goes to China from this tiny country, and that's just one of the 54 African economies. And the concern that we have is that, yes, we are growing the next generation of African entrepreneurs, but they need to now disrupt those supply chains at home, both within their own domestic markets as well as the Pan-African markets. And I'd be interested to hear, how is the outside world, which is, oil or tomatoes in Nigeria, you have to buy imported tomato puree. While tomatoes that come from the northern part of Nigeria into Lagos, by the time they get to Lagos, they're unusable, yeah? So, we need to build those processing plants in the countries in Africa, because that's what creates jobs and that's what creates wealth. And we've set ourselves a goal over the next 10 years through the program that our entrepreneurs must create over 1 million jobs over the next 10 years, and that they will contribute $10 billion to the economy. You have to recognize that the African consumer is growing, yeah? And they don't need to constantly go to supermarkets or go to anywhere to buy things that are made outside and sold back to the African economy at the most extraordinary price. And I think, when we're talking about that, we really do have to address those issues, particularly as the African population is the youngest population in the world.
David?
Yeah, Rama, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Rahama.
Rahama.
Yeah.
Rahama. You made 2 points that I couldn't agree with more, 2 things that I really would love to build on. One is the idea of empowering women entrepreneurs. That is very important to us at Indiegogo, and we've actually, women entrepreneurs actually tend to be more successful than male entrepreneurs. But I think you made not surprising to me at all. And, but I think you made a very, very interesting point about small, about entrepreneurs partnering with larger companies. And I always like to talk in specific stories because I think they're illustrative. And I promise, Mark, I'll do it quick. I'm super conscious of time. We had a situation where 2 women entrepreneurs on Indiegogo, 2 designers, had an idea for a pair of headphones. You may have seen them now, that'll kill the end of my story, but a pair of headphones that have cat ears on the top. Those 2 women were design students at UC Berkeley, and they had this idea for these cat phones that would look like cat ears. And they put their campaign on Indiegogo, and they raised $3.5 million to make their headphones. I'll get back to them in a second. In the same time, we were talking to Brookstone, not only a major retailer, over 300 stores here in the US, but now, because they were acquired 2 years ago, also owned by a major Chinese manufacturing company. Brookstone's challenge was that they were investing too much money in products that didn't ultimately have a market. So here we had a manufacturer and retailer that was investing too much in products that consumers weren't interested in. And here you had 2 female entrepreneurs that had a great idea, but their problem that they ran into is after they raised their $3.5 million, then they realized, we need to manufacture these headphones. And I think, I wasn't there, I think one of them turned to the other one and said, I thought you knew how to do that. And so we enabled them to partner. We actually formed a partnership with Brookstone, now owned by major Chinese manufacturing company, to enable the manufacturing, so these two female entrepreneurs could actually get their product to market. Within a year, Brookstone shipped all of the headphones that were purchased on Indiegogo, and they started carrying those headphones in their stores. And this is just 1 year later, last year for the holiday season, it was one of the top 5 best-selling products on Brookstone, at Brookstone stores. And if you go to brookstone.com or walk into any of their stores, you'll see it right in the front of that store. Rahman, I could not agree more that creating an ability for smaller entrepreneurs to partner with larger organizations that can bring expertise to really enable those entrepreneurs to get their ideas to market makes great sense. And we are doing all we can to make that happen.
I'm just interested, who here has fallen asleep in the vibrating chair in a Brookstone store? I know that's my best place for a good nap.
Could I build on that just quickly? Because I think it's a great story of the partnership and the need for corporations to lean in and help develop. So there was a report that came out from the University of Michigan at Oxford. I think it came out Wednesday. And we shared some things that we learned from a project that I was personally very involved in and very passionate about. It gets to what you were talking about, Rahama, where we had tried to go too directly to the cooperatives that were empowering women, and we ran into some systemic problems, right? The product development, like what's coming next season, ensuring the consistent quality, and so it was really important for us that we shared what we learned, in hopes that we kind of take a multi-retailer approach and kind of engage multiple stakeholders and take an ecosystem to also developing some of the emerging businesses. And the final point, because I think that hopefully to draw you all in, the David, Don, and Goliath kind of sets up this adversarial scene, but it isn't at all, because as retailers, we are always trying to keep the product assortment fresh and exciting and new. And so you've heard several stories of how that happens. We need this, right? It's good for our customers, but also the point that it helps us innovate in our supply chain. So when you get used to doing business with certain size companies all along, the innovation stops in some of the infrastructure. So there are multiple benefits for larger corporations leaning in and developing and supplying the resources to take you from one store to 5 stores to a website, and ultimately as far as it can go.
I'm going to put you on warning, dear audience. We have about 4 more minutes before I will ask for questions. We have 2 microphone people right here in the front. Thank you for your service in advance. And you will be asked to raise your hand and ask a question. I'll go to you in about 4 minutes or so. So you are duly warned. Kelly, I'm going to stick with you. It was once said, or is often said rather, about a small Seattle-based retailer named after a large river in the South America, that they are not in the retail business, they're in the data business. The data business. And I would suggest that, be it any size, a company of your scale and size, Exline, anybody, the smaller retail or smaller supply chain participants, that data is as much a key asset as anything else. Where do you see that going, both for yourself and your relationship and the data you share with other customers? And I'll actually ask the whole panel before we go to Q&A, but let's start with you.
Great. Yeah, that's this panel is awesome. It's hitting on 2 of my personal passions. But we have a large presence here in the Valley. We have about 2,200 technologists, many of whom are data scientists here in Silicon Valley. And some of what we talked about with Indiegogo, that's the generation of data. The job of a merchant is essentially to listen to customers and then respond with exciting product assortments. And customers are more and more speaking to us through data. So I've been a merchant for over 20 years. Sorry, I didn't add that. I got the pressure for the lightning round introduction. But I also am a proud woman of STEM. I have a bachelor's in biology from UC San Diego. And for all of you moms, dads, aunts, uncles, encouragers of young people, I'll have you know that I bring that biology degree to work every single day. And it's helped me really draw the connection between merchandising, which is kind of artsy, and science, and how do we actually bring data closer to customer decision making. So a lot of the work I'm doing today does just that. How are we hearing signals and making sure that we're using that to put the right products on the shelves? But have a whole team of technologists surrounding us here in the Bay Area helping us through that, and really innovating on how to serve customers better through leveraging data.
Other members on the panel, thoughts on data before we get to the Q&A? Anybody else?
So for us, data, we have 100,000 real living live entrepreneurs developing products across 30, 40 sectors. Agriculture is the biggest. So it's very interesting that young Africans see agriculture as the next business opportunity. We want to use data to empower them even further. And so it's talking to them and saying, rather than top-down policies that says, this is what, the government saying, this is what we think the entrepreneurs need, in terms of an enabling environment. It's the entrepreneurs who are saying these are our challenges, and governments and policymakers, these are some of the things that you can do to remove the obstacles in our way. So we're using data to really educate and inform, and the creation of building a Pan-African ecosystem that allows African entrepreneurs to thrive and grow their businesses.
David?
Indiegogo believes really strongly in data. Indiegogo enables everybody that is a part of the ecosystem to actually have better data to chart their course. A super quick story, I know it's a lightning round. General Electric manufactured within their entrepreneurial division, which they called First Build, a nugget ice maker. It's the kind of ice that you get in restaurants and you don't get in your refrigerator. The challenge that even General Electric had is that even with all of their manufacturing capacity, it was hard for the people that do the innovation at General Electric to actually get the people that do the manufacturing to manufacture their products. So General Electric put that product on Indiegogo and sold for a product that wasn't going to be shipping for over a year, over $2.4 million worth of a $400 ice maker that sat on your counter, not even in the fridge. That ice maker immediately got put into manufacturing at Indiegogo, and what General Electric told us, published on their blog and published on our blog, is that the data that they got from putting that product on Indiegogo over a year before it was going to be shipped was better than the data that they would get from all of the surveys that they've been doing for decades.
Rahama?
What I would say about data, specifically from the perspective of being a small business working in West Africa, is that we need government to play a role in helping us collect and access the right data so we can make the case for a lot of these small-scale farmers to access the marketplace. And so I've oftentimes found it very difficult when I'm doing pitches to have the right data set in terms of the issue and the problem. And I think that this is where organizations like the US government, the World Bank, can help collect the right data to make the case.
Well, there's no question in my mind, and I assume in yours as well, dear audience, that this is an amazing panel with an incredibly deep and varied vein of experience. So with that, I will ask for your questions. We have microphones. Here's the first hand right here, yeah. And I would ask that you take the mic and say your name and the organization you are with, please. And make it a question, not a statement.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Great. My name's Elmira Bay-Rossley. I'm actually the author of a book on global entrepreneurship from the other side of the world. I actually want to push back on something that you actually said about M&A being the new R&D. I think that's great, and I think it ties in with this concept of infrastructure and supply chains, because when you do have the M&A, it's great that you have the small businesses being acquired by the big businesses, but when are the small businesses or the small entrepreneur, how do we actually help them scale up so that they can actually be as big as the Walmarts? And so I think it's great that, you know, the Brookstones and the Walmarts are working with the small businesses, but I'm not hearing anything talking about how do you actually take the startup or the small business to scale.
Well, I will make a short response, and I appreciate the pushback. I say M&A is the new R&D because the acquiree had to say yes. I mean, some companies turn down M&A offers and try and scale up, to your point, to become the next giant. But let me start with you, Kelly, if you don't mind, then David, and well, actually the whole panel. How do you see this sort of the big eating the little, so to speak, DNA level stuff happening?
Yeah, I think Emmett brought it up, so it's maybe a little bit unfair to push back since he's on his way to the airport.
He's gone. We can say whatever we want about it.
But I actually agree that I like the little and the new popping up, because you always want to understand, like, those could be big. You know, Walmart didn't come from somebody who graduated an MBA and came with a PowerPoint deck. If I remember my stories correctly, Sam Walton borrowed money from his father-in-law to start Walmart. Imagine, Thanksgiving dinner after that. So we want to cultivate these great American stories. And so I think there is a place where people who are doing the same thing can possibly band together. But I would hate for that to crush the innovation and the next great idea. So I see that both can live together. And again, you kind of heard me make several points about what Walmart does to invest. and at least give entrepreneurs the platform for the customers to respond to their product, and the internal support to help grow them and help them scale as the demand scales.
Okay, we're going to keep moving. Other hands, just 1 second for you, sir. In the back right there. Can we get that person a mic? There we go. Name, rank, and serial number.
I'm Muna Abbasi. I'm Moroccan, and I'm the founder of Easy Beauty. It's a natural skincare product made of argan oil from Morocco. And my question would be for when listing the product with retailers such as Walmart or other retailers in overseas, what is the process of the registration? I mean, what's the impact or what's the help that the big retailers give to the small suppliers to get all the registrations and all the legal frameworks done?
Yeah,
I'll
just take really quickly, but on the corporate Walmart website, we're developing a space for suppliers that answers just that. So it tells you exactly the minimum requirements that you need in order to do business with Walmart. It gives you some tips on how to take the next steps, and it gets you a link into our supplier diversity portal so that it can actually get you going and get you into kind of the special section that we work with, that supplier diversity pays attention to. And there's a lot of videos that kind of help. It sounds like an easy process. There are a lot of steps to it, but there is support on the website that kind of helps take you from step A to step B, and then connects you with the right internal teams.
I would also argue, and I'll put, not now, but I'll put you permanently on the spot, and even Rahama mentioned the United States government. On the SBA.gov website, there are a significant number of resources on how, from our Office of International Trade, which we have at the SBA, on how non-domestic external companies can sometimes do business with U.S. entities. We had a question here in the front. Yes. Got a mic?
Yeah. Hello, thank you very much. My name is Mahmoud Khouais. I come from Palestine. I'm a management specialist and author of a public procurement management book. At the same time, I run a procurement company. I have two questions, actually, one for Emmett and one for Kelly, regarding the...
Wait, one's for Emmett?
Sorry?
Rahama. Rahama. Yeah.
Sorry?
Rahama.
Rahma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Close enough. All right, here we go.
Yeah, for Rahma first. How did you sustain until you developed the skills of the women that you were working with in order before they reached the requirement of the market? So their skills. How did you sustain? From where did you get this money and efforts and support? And I'm asking this because we have a project currently that we're working with 50, a group of 50 women doing agribusiness, mainly in herbal plants. We're helping them as a specialist, and we're trying to find and open a new markets, international markets for them. This is one. Thank you very much. And
so no, you're stopped at one. Let's just go right to Rahama there. That's a good one. Go ahead.
Yeah, great question. And I've been doing this for 11 years now, so we didn't go to market immediately. The first 7 years of Shailene was really working on the capacity of the women to be able to be organized to create a high quality product. So we didn't go to market immediately after we started. It actually took several years. And in that process, we did everything from training, testing the Shea, doing trial shipments. And then when I got to a point where I had a retail ready product, that's when I started pitching and working through supplier diversity programs to get the product to market. But it wasn't immediate. It took many years before I could even get to that point.
Those 7 years, from where did you get the money?
I self-funded. So I didn't get my first round of seed funding.
He asked about funding, and she's self-funding. Other questions or comments? We're coming down to the wire here. Anybody else? Going once? Here we go, right here. Sorry. It's tough to see everybody.
It's okay. Actually, I feel compelled to ask a question because my name actually is Donna. My name's Donna Brzezinski.
You're the one.
I'm the CEO and founder of Little Sparrows Technologies. I'm a physician as well, and our company develops medical devices that are context appropriate to improve newborn health worldwide, particularly in developing areas. almost all this conversation really is about the door swinging one way in terms of entrepreneurship with products that are developed in developing areas coming to market in developed countries like the United States. We actually want to swing the door the other way. So we have a product that we're developing to enable better newborn care in developing areas and are finding a lot of obstacles in getting those products to market. The Goliath, we feel that would be helpful to us is one that would help smooth the path for us to be able to utilize their distribution channels, networks, contacts, and maybe in exchange for philanthropic branding or some kind of relationship. My question is that something that is typically done by big multinational corporations? Or is it facilitated, like in the instance of an Indiegogo campaign where you facilitated the bringing to market of the headphones with another organization? Are you looking toward moving products that are being specifically made for developing areas through your channels so that they can actually reach the people that need them?
A couple of questions to a couple of folks. Do you want to start with it first, Kelly?
Yeah, I think for Walmart's focus around the world, it is about what we sell to our customers in the stores primarily. And I'm not prepared to speak as detailed to what might be able to happen through Walmart Foundation. But yeah, primarily our focus is directly to the consumer in the stores around the world. That's where all of our programs are focused on.
And we're actively forming partnerships and taking and enabling our entrepreneurs to really take advantage of those partnerships to not only ship in the U.S. but all around the world. On the 30% of the products that are actually ordered from Indiegogo actually ship outside of the U.S. and we're working very closely with a number of manufacturing partners to make it easier for the entrepreneurs on our platform to have access to a global marketplace.
Hopefully you'll be able to see folks, I'm sorry, yeah.
So no, just in terms of the African entrepreneurs, certainly what the foundation is doing is really brokering those relationships with the big businesses, the multinationals that are coming into those 54 African economies, and introducing the startups and the small enterprises right from the start, and getting so that they are able to introduce their products and services from the early stages and begin to build those relationships. And we're also doing that. It's doing the same and in terms of educating the presidents and the ministers in those governments to say, in your country, what we are contributing is the building of an entrepreneurial class. You guys need to remember that in Africa, in many of those countries, that entrepreneurial class doesn't exist, because they have been turned to be traders, which is go to China, bring this product, go sell it to the market, rather than innovate and create things that are really necessary and needed in terms of identifying a gap in the market and innovating to produce a solution that fills that gap. And so what I would urge is that, from the US government and everybody should really be putting a lot more resources and training as well as money or whatever in helping to grow the African entrepreneurial class within Africa so that they have then the strength to build those relationships across the borders as well.
I would only add to your business model is maybe check out the Overseas Private Investment Corporation and XM Bank to see if there's any resources that you can leverage to get your products from the US to an international market.
Another free commercial for the United States government from our friends Rahama. That's our last question today. We are up against the clock, but Kelly, Parvinder, David, Emmett in absentia, and Rahama, you did a fabulous job today. Ladies and gents, please join me in thanking them for a wonderful panel.
For somebody